Most people don't realize that overthinking is not a flaw by default. Psychology shows that the same mind that overanalyzes conversations, decisions, and future outcomes often carries abilities that others simply don't have. What feels like a burden on the inside can actually be a sign of rare mental traits. By the end of this discussion, you'll understand why you overthink, what's really happening in your brain, and why this habit often points to strengths rather than weaknesses. You may even begin to see your own mind in a very different light. Overthinking exists because the brain is trying to protect you. At its core, the mind evolved to predict outcomes and reduce risk. When someone overthinks, it's often because their brain is exceptionally good at imagining possibilities. Instead of stopping at one explanation, it keeps going, scanning for patterns, meanings, and potential consequences. This leads to the first rare trait, heightened awareness. Overthinkers tend to notice details others overlook. Tone shifts in conversations, small changes in behavior, or inconsistencies in stories stand out immediately. The brain is constantly collecting data, even when the person wishes it would stop. In social situations, this can feel exhausting, but it also means you understand dynamics at a deeper level. Have you ever sensed tension in a room before anyone said a word? That's not imagination, it's perception. Your mind is reading subtle cues and connecting them faster than most people can. This heightened awareness is closely tied to emotional intelligence. Overthinkers often have a strong ability to empathize. Because they analyze situations from multiple angles, they're more likely to consider how others feel, not just how things look on the surface. This makes them thoughtful friends, partners, and colleagues. The downside is that empathy without boundaries can turn inward. When you care deeply about impact, your mind keeps replaying moments, wondering if you said the wrong thing or hurt someone unintentionally. But this same trait is what allows you to connect deeply when it's used intentionally. The second rare trait is advanced pattern recognition. Overthinking brains are excellent at linking past experiences to present situations. Your mind doesn't see events in isolation, it sees sequences. This is why you often say, "This feels familiar," even when you can't explain why. In the workplace, this can show up as strong problem-solving skills. You anticipate issues before they happen. You spot flaws in plans early. Others may call it worrying, but it's actually foresight. The challenge is learning when the pattern is useful and when it's just noise. Ask yourself this quietly. How often have your instincts turned out to be right, even when you doubted them at first? The third rare trait is deep self-reflection. Overthinkers spend a lot of time inside their own minds. They question their motives, their reactions, and their choices. While this can become overwhelming, it also leads to self-awareness that many people never develop. Self-reflection is the foundation of growth. It's what allows people to learn from mistakes instead of repeating them. Overthinkers often mature emotionally faster because they examine their experiences instead of brushing them aside. However, when reflection turns into rumination, the brain gets stuck. Instead of learning, it loops. This happens when the nervous system stays in a state of alert. The mind is still searching for resolution that never arrives. A subtle but important shift is recognizing when a thought is informative and when it's simply familiar. Not every repeated thought deserves attention. The fourth rare trait is creativity. Overthinking minds are rarely linear. They jump between ideas, scenarios, and perspectives. This mental flexibility fuels imagination. Writers, artists, strategists, and innovators often overthink because their brains are constantly exploring alternatives. Creativity isn't just about art. It shows up in how you approach conversations, solve problems, and envision futures. Overthinkers often imagine outcomes in vivid detail. This can cause anxiety, but it also allows for deep planning and innovation. Think about how often you imagine conversations before they happen. That's not weakness, that's mental rehearsal. When used wisely, it becomes preparation rather than fear. The fifth rare trait is strong moral awareness. Overthinkers tend to care deeply about doing the right thing. They replay decisions because they want to act with integrity. This internal compass can feel heavy, but it's also what makes someone trustworthy. People with this trait often struggle with guilt even when they've done nothing wrong. The mind keeps asking, could I have done better? While this can be exhausting, it also means you hold yourself to a high ethical standard. From a brain perspective, overthinking involves an active prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for planning, decision-making, and evaluation. When this area stays engaged for too long, it drains mental energy. That's why overthinkers often feel tired even without physical effort. The brain isn't broken, it's just overstimulated. Creating moments of mental rest allows these strengths to function without turning against you. Overthinking often shows up most strongly in relationships. You replay messages, analyze pauses, and search for hidden meanings. This happens because attachment activates emotional memory. When something matters, the brain pays closer attention. Instead of trying to shut your mind down, it helps to ground it. Bringing attention back to the present moment signals safety to the nervous system. Safety reduces the need to analyze every possibility. Here's a surprising insight. Overthinkers often struggle not because they think too much, but because they trust their thoughts too automatically. Learning to observe thoughts without immediately engaging with them creates space. You are not your thoughts. You are the one noticing them. Another pattern interrupt worth considering is this. If a friend came to you with the same worries you have about yourself, how would you respond? Overthinkers are often kinder to others than to themselves. When you redirect that compassion inward, the mind softens. Overthinking doesn't mean you're weak. It often means you care deeply, notice more, and process life intensely. The goal is not to eliminate overthinking, but to guide it. Ask yourself where your mind serves you well and where it needs rest. Awareness is the first step towards balance. As you reflect on these traits, you may begin to see that what you've been trying to fix is actually something to refine. With practice, these qualities become tools instead of traps. Your mind has depth for a reason. When you learn to work with it instead of against it, clarity replaces chaos. If this resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on how your overthinking has helped you in the past. Share your thoughts and continue exploring how understanding your mind can transform the way you experience the world.